Good morning, Ina. Hello, how are you?
Very well. And you? Thank you.
I'm very well. We have something really interesting in store for us today. And for anyone who doesn't know Ina, she's also another passionate person, and we share communication and linguistics and this strange international background of living and communicating in several languages. And today we're here to talk about a curious topic, which is apologizing. And there's actually a funny concept behind this called I'm sorry for my English, which comes from I'm sorry. And the reason why we're here talking about this topic is in our last conversation with Ina, I mentioned that I grew up in Andalusia, where there was a funny joke I remember from my childhood, which was, I'm sorry, I'm perry. And this is what started this whole conversation of using the words I'm sorry in public. So apologizing for something we haven't done. And I see this in my work when people apologize for their English. But then, Ina, you brought in a really interesting perspective to this concept. Would you care to share and expand a little bit on this?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Anne. Well, actually, I met Anne during an online conference, and she was explaining this idea, and I found it also interesting because during this conference, the speakers were speaking a perfect English. They were women, and still they were apologizing about their English. So I contacted Anne and I said, Anne, first of all, of course, I like your contribution, and also I present myself as an passionate about gender. So I wanted to share with her a gender focus about the topic. And actually, I think that women apologize much more than men. It's not that men don't, it's just that they do less. And we were trying to figure out why, to understand the topic on this perspective, basically.
Yeah, and I think it was interesting the fact that it's apologizing for something that we or they really haven't done. Like this thing about apologizing for my English. Yes. Like where does it come from? Is it a conscious action?
It could be, but it also could not be. For example, I think there are two reasons why basically women do. Probably it could be an heritage about something coming from the past, because it's until yesterday, let's say, we're not supposed to speak in public, and maybe even less to be in public. So it's about the perception of roles of men and women. Also, it could be an educational pattern. And at this regard, I would like to quote, for example, Elena Giannini Bellotti, a book that has a very meaningful title, Dalla parte delle bambine, the influence of social conditioning in the formation of the female role during the first years of life. And she said in this book, the translation is mine, if a boy doesn't thank or apologize for something, we do it for him. If a girl doesn't, we are very upset. Yes, yeah. So this is about the thing, I think.
That is really interesting. Like I see it a lot in. Obviously, I work with clients in situations where people speak in public, and why we brought up this topic today is specifically in public situations and not necessarily at home or in, let's say, environments where you know the people, but we apologize in front of strangers. And I actually caught myself doing this the other day when I was working on the street. You know, I've recently moved to Switzerland and I don't speak German yet. And someone asked me something in German, and what was it that I did? I'm sorry, I don't speak German. Do you speak English? And I said, wow, I did it. And it's just something that comes, like that was unconscious. And then I caught myself in the action immediately. And I said, And it wasn't a shameful moment for me, but it was an eye-opening moment that even I did it when I'm telling here people, don't apologize for your English.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic. Of course, I think it's for good because we want to give the best in every situation, but also sometimes we should allow ourselves to fail a little bit, because the most important thing is the attempt and also the aim. So I think it's that we should be more confident first. And at this regard, I would like also to quote Carrie Fisher from the LinkedIn profile, the female lead. She said, "What's important is the action. You don't have to wait to be confident. Just do it, and eventually the confidence will follow." So it's important, even if you want to have a public speech or a normal action in the best way, in a professional way, it's fine to prepare, as you told us during your speech. But also, at some point, it shouldn't stop us. It's okay.
Exactly. Very often I hear the word languages and perfection. Mm-hmm. And I really, really dislike those two words together when we talk about verbal communication, because I think that takes away the human aspect of communication if we seek for perfection. Unless we're doing a TED talk, which is going to be filmed and it's very precise and exact how it has to be. If we are in another situation of work or, speaking in public with our audiences, I don't need and I don't seek and I don't train people to seek for perfection, because I think perfection specifically stops people from taking that first step to break that barrier and start building the confidence.
And also, since you mentioned that we have a multilingual, multicultural background, for me, it's absolutely something that enriches my personality, even if sometimes it's confusing, but I think I can think in different way. Things basically, and even if sometimes I failed words, I think I have more resources to express myself, right? What do you think about?
Yeah, I often got asked this question of what language do I speak in? So my mother tongue is Finnish. I grew up in an English, Spanish, Finnish environment. And for years I didn't know which language I thought in until I went on a meditation retreat a few years ago. And after 10 days of silence, I discovered that I think trilingually, completely random. So depending on who I'm speaking to, I also do notice that I mix languages, which is not something I'm very proud of, in the sense that I don't like using Spanglish, or I use quite a lot of Finglish. Well, especially if I'm talking to someone in Finnish about my work. So I think it's definitely a resource that if you can't access the words from one language, you can use another language. But funnily enough, the numbers are something that will never change. You will always think numbers in your mother tongue.
Wow, super interesting.
That's
and
crazy.
Also speaking about this, I was thinking that also sometimes it's about the resistance of a contest in speaking about I'm sorry, or the gender focus, because for example, in my experience, maybe Spain is slightly more open than Italy regarding the use of a more inclusive language. And also, and probably you could say something about Finland, or no?
Well, Finland is, Finnish, and I'll tell you something about the Finnish language, something curious.
I think we were getting there, because actually I was saying also that the grammar roots of languages shapes also ourselves using the languages. So for example, I think once you told that Finnish has no gender.
No, okay. The table is table and the wall is a wall. There is no differentiation like in Spanish or French or Italian. There's like an it. And if you need to differentiate between a teacher, like professor, professora, in Finnish you have to say male teacher or female teacher.
Okay.
So the grammar itself does not define genders. Wow. So for me, it's really like linguistically, I cannot remember in Spanish or in French. And now I have German coming along. So like how can something be an object be male or female? And that comes purely from the linguistic roots.
Sure. So we should take into account also these backgrounds.
Definitely. linguistic background of the person. So kind of to summarize, we've spoken about like beliefs and family behavior, and then we've spoken about the language, as in which country someone comes from, and especially then also I think it's partly our habits. Like, are we conscious about when or why we use the I'm sorry for my English, or I'm sorry for anything else that you haven't done. So to wrap up a little bit this topic, is there any tip if someone listening to us today is thinking, wow, this morning I just used I'm sorry for my English and now I'm aware of it. Is there any tip that you would give for someone to improve this habit? Or
I would like to start inviting people to observe what we were speaking about in their daily life, because according to my experience, when I speak about these topics, some people say, oh yes, it's true, I didn't realize before, and other people can say what she's talking about. So I'm not here, to provide any kind of truth, even if I'm super confident about what I'm saying, but really I would invite people to observe this kind of double standard in, let's say in public speaking in this case, but in general. And then we will speak later about this. And
yes.
What about you?
I would definitely agree with you there to bring awareness to our communication, not just only on the I'm sorry side, but being aware of what comes out of our mouths. And one of those things is, even though the I'm sorry slips out accidentally, is that the more aware we are and the more we practice, if we are in a public speaking situation, is practice. If we know what we're going to say, then there's no need to apologize. And I think it's bringing awareness to our communication in general.
Yeah.
That would be, I think, a step number one for bringing awareness to this phenomena called I'm sorry for my English. Cool. I think we can leave it there for today. Thank you so much, Ina, for sharing your vision and ideas on this topic. We could be here for hours.
Yeah, definitely.
So today has just been a brief snapshot of what's been on our mind regarding this topic. Thank you so much, Ina.
Thank you. Bye.